want to build your audience, if you want to grow, if you want to connect with the people that you want to sell to and connect with and get feedback from and build relationship with, you start by being authentic. But what does being authentic look like? It means that you're not perfect. You show up. You have that first time that you go live on Facebook, the first time that you go live on Instagram, that first reel. You have the first time you go on video, and then you have the 5th time and the 10th time and the 20th time. So yes, you start, but also you're consistent with showing up. Because if you're looking at the algorithm and timelines and how that works, the things that you put up, they get put on Instagram and Facebook, and then they go down the timeline, and unless people are seeking you out and searching you out, they're not going to come across you again unless you're YouTube, which is more of a search engine, and that's a different scenario. But the point is, show up perfectly imperfect, show up messy, and that doesn't mean show up as a hot mess or show up in a way that doesn't make you feel empowered. Being authentic looks like continually showing up authentically, not just one time and then you don't get the feedback and you hear the crickets and you hear the silence and you just decide, you know what, it's not for me, people must not get me. I'm just going to move on to something else because I tried and it didn't work out. Or maybe you've given it like a 2nd time and a 3rd time and a 10th time and a 20th time, and you still feel like you don't have the feedback from your audience that you want to have. That's okay. I have heard so many stories of influencers that talk about, you know what, it took me 3 years, it took me 5 years, it took me 7 years. And although that sounds like way longer than we want to wait, certainly way longer than I want to wait, the bottom line is I know it's not an overnight thing. But if we convince ourselves that we should be viral like the person that we're admiring and that we see, we're building and believing and setting ourselves up for failure. Because overnight successes, viral successes, are the exception to the rule. Do they happen? Yes. But there is a bigger group of people, me included, and I'm sure you included, that are creating content and you're putting yourself out there and you're building your business and you're working on consistency and you don't have that viral moment yet, but you're having a slow build. And eventually you're going to get to that point where things start rolling a little bit faster. But if you find yourself in that discouraging phase of, gosh, I've been at this for a long time now, my business isn't growing, I'm trying to connect with my audience, but it's just not happening, then this is exactly what you do right now. You're watching a video to get inspired, to see what else you can do to really connect and grow your business and your audience. Because that's a part of showing up authentically too. When we watch other people who are putting themselves out there, it's inspiring to us, and we can take that inspiration and use that as fuel to show up ourselves in our own lives and in our own businesses. So when you show up authentically, you inspire somebody else to show up authentically. There is so much value in letting go of that fear and just being you. Because think about the influencers that you follow. I know the ones that I follow, one of the reasons why I do follow them is because they do let me know their opinions and their viewpoints. They do let me know how they feel about things. And so when I hear what they say, when I hear where they stand on certain things, it really helps me to identify more fully with them. A lot of times we are more shy about our opinions and our beliefs, especially in this day and age where there's a lot of cancel culture. And if you don't believe the same way I believe, I'm just going to cancel you and I'm going to ruin your life and all of that garbage that goes on. But it is so important to make a connection with your audience, and how you do that is by being authentic. It doesn't mean that if you know that you're in a circle in a crowd that vastly differs from how you believe, that means you should just go in like a bullhorn and just blast everybody and ruin the potential for relationships and connection. There's definitely a balance, and there's definitely a strategy in knowing how to open up and under what setting and circumstance is appropriate to share opinions, especially hot button topics. But I also want to offer this as an encouragement for the one who's watching this and you feel like, I'm in this circle of friends, I'm in this tribe, I'm in this community, and I don't feel like anybody else really gets me or has the same viewpoint. You know what? You need to show up as God has created you to. Be all He has called you to be, even if it looks different than everybody else. Even if your viewpoint and your perspective and the way that you see things is greatly different than everybody else, it's okay. You show up as you and decide for yourself that you deserve a seat at the table. And I know that sounds cliched. You deserve a seat at the table. You deserve a voice in the conversation. We've heard it before, but it is so true. You have to decide for yourself that you deserve to show up at the table of life and that you have something to offer. Even if the group that you're with has opinions and viewpoints that you don't agree with completely, or you may not agree with at all. Iron sharpens iron, and there's going to be something that you give in the conversation or that you learn in the conversation that's going to help grow and refine you even more fully. And I get it. It can be hard. It can be isolating when you feel like you don't have anybody else that really, really gets you, or that you feel like you can just let loose with, be safe with, and just be yourself, knowing that you're not going to be judged and that you're going to be received. But the one place you know that you can be received, I'm saying this as someone who is a person of faith myself, your safe space can always be your relationship with God. He is always your safe space. I can think of the most challenging, trying times in my life, and in those moments, I knew his love more than I knew his judgment. And that's why my faith is so personal to me. So while feeling isolated and disconnected from other people might be what you are living in the moment in this season, I want to encourage you to ask God, what do you want me to learn from this? How can I grow? How can I allow this to sharpen me and shape me versus destroy me and discourage me? You may feel like you haven't made a lot of progress, that you've spent the 1 year, the 3 years, the 5 years going at it, and things still aren't moving at the pace you want them to move to. But I can tell you, you are so much further ahead than you would have been had you never made the risk, had you just settled, had you decided, I'm not going to pursue this because I can't guarantee an outcome. The bottom line is you're probably much further ahead than you're even giving yourself credit for, because you know what? We're always our own worst critic. So I am telling you today in this moment to show up and show out, like the song says, smoother than a fresh jar of Skippy. I've seen these reels lately where people are like pointing and dancing and doing all this crazy stuff, and they're putting themselves out there. And you know what? Sometimes it's a little cringy, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I love that. I love to see her or him showing up, even if it looks a little crazy, even if it looks a little out there. It honestly inspires me to show up. I don't know that I'm going to be out there like dancing on my reel, and who knows, maybe you'll find me on reels doing that at some point. As of right now, I don't have the courage to do it. However, it inspires me to continue to show up as God has created me to show up. In your authenticity, you may have some quirks to your personality. You may feel like, oh gosh, I don't know if people will get that. They'll think it's weird. I don't know if I should share my viewpoint on this or my opinion on that. People crave people they resonate with. So if you never put your opinion out there, if you never put your viewpoint out there, you're not going to reach the audience you want to reach. And if you hear those little tapping sounds in the background, which you might, these are my animals like walking around. They're usually sound asleep. However, I think because I'm shooting a video, they decided it's time to like run the house, tap, tap, tap all over the floors, start purring underneath my feet, being crazy. If you have animals, or you have kids, you hit that record button and they have decided, you know what, it is time for me to show up. And the truth is, the more times that you show up authentically, you're going to be more confident in really putting yourself out there. The first time that you try to show up authentically, you might be, and nervous and looking around. You might stumble over your words a little bit or a lot. But that's a part of first drafts and first lives and first YouTube videos. That's a part of the first experience of putting yourself out there. So who cares about the ums? Who cares about the likes? Like this, like that. Oh my God, like. Who cares if your microphone isn't as amazing as it's going to be in 6 months when you can forward something way better? Who cares if the setup behind you isn't exactly what you would want it to be? It's more about you getting the courage to put yourself out there and showing up for your life. And people identify with a story, they identify with authenticity. So you may not have the perfect background, you may not be as well rehearsed as the people that you follow and admire. You may not be incredibly outgoing with tons of energy, and when you go live, it's just bam, nugget after nugget after nugget, laying out there the things that you want to say and the message that you want to convey. The bottom line is you're never going to get there until you're willing to have that first draft, that first live, that first trial, that first time you serve a customer or a client or you perform your service. It's okay to be a beginner. In fact, it's needed that you're a beginner, because you're never going to get to the expert phase until you have a beginning phase. And I know, I get it. Sometimes the beginner phase lasts way longer than we want it to. We want to go from beginner to expert and minimize the painful, messy middle. But I will be your friend and your sister to tell you, you can't skip that part. It's a part of the process. It's ugly, it's painful. Nobody wants to do it. But you will eventually get on the other side of where you really want to be. And it's not that you're going to be perfect on the other side. It's not like it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows and you're over the mountain and all of a sudden you're looking at the promised land. The birds are singing, the angels are shining down on you from heaven. Because whenever you get to a new season, there's always challenges and things about that season that feel just as strong and in your face as the ones from your previous season. But it's about learning to enjoy the journey and find moments in today that you can enjoy and appreciating what you have in the moment. There's been so many times where I've been caught up in destination addiction, thinking that my happiness was wrapped up in where I wanted to go. And I struggled to find joy in the journey. But what I have learned in season after season after season of life is there's always going to be a new set of problems in the next season. And if I don't learn how to get happy in today and find joy in today and be intentional about discovering what there is to love about the moment that I'm in, I'm going to spend way too much time stressing and wasting time and wishing seasons of my life away only to get to a next season where there's challenges in that season, there's struggles in that season. So don't do what I did and waste too many seasons wishing them away, thinking the next one is going to be it for you. Okay, I have to go pick up kiddos. So that is all for today. Show up authentically. I'm going to be doing my best to do the same. We can do it together. We can cheer each other on. Let's do it.